On one of those calm weeknight evenings, everything appeared to be in order. The smell of roasted vegetables filled the kitchen as my husband hummed to himself and put the dishes on the dining table with a fluidity that only comes from years of practice. The lights were turned down a little to provide a cozy glow. I observed him for a while, admiring his familiar movements. His shirt sleeves were neatly rolled up, and he had a kind manner. But despite the fact that everything seemed picture perfect, I was actually feeling a vague ache that I couldn't quite place. He smiled at the sight of me staring. "What?" I chuckled and shook my head, saying, "Nothing. I guess I'm simply worn out." However, my phone buzzed on the counter before he could reply. My breath caught as I looked at the screen. She was the one. The message was straightforward. "Hey, I'm thinking of you. Soon, we should have a girls' night. You deserve some fun." A familiar warmth spread through my chest, followed by the sharp edge of something unnameable. Guilt? Excitement? I wasn't sure. I quickly locked the phone and returned to my chair. "Everything okay?" my husband asked as he sat across from me, serving a generous portion of dinner onto my plate. I nodded, pushing a smile to my face. "Just my friend, suggesting we catch up." He chuckled, his fork scraping the plate as he took a bite. "That sounds like a good idea. You've been working so hard you could use some fun." There was no suspicion in his voice, no shadow of doubt, but his words only deepened the knot in my stomach. I wondered if he ever noticed how carefully I chose my words these days, or how I stayed longer in front of the mirror before heading out the door. Later that evening, after the dishes had been cleared and the soft hum of the television filled the living room, I stood by the window, staring out at the quiet street. My phone buzzed again. A second message. Tomorrow night? My place. "Let's drink wine and laugh about life like we used to." A slow exhale escaped my lips. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself it was long overdue, just two old friends reconnecting. Still, as I typed "sounds perfect" and hit send, a part of me already knew this wasn't just another night in the city. The next day passed in a blur of mundane tasks and half-hearted conversations. By the time the sun began to dip below the skyline, I felt my nerves unraveling. Standing in front of my closet, I hesitated before choosing a soft knit dress that hugged me in all the right places, but still felt casual enough to avoid suspicion. Underneath, I picked out lace, something that felt indulgent and secret. As I stood in front of the mirror, I noticed the faint glow on my cheeks, the way my heartbeat quickened. I dabbed on a hint of perfume, a scent she once said suited me perfectly. Her apartment was warm and inviting, the faint scent of vanilla candles drifting through the air. She greeted me with her usual bright smile and pulled me into a hug that lingered just long enough for my pulse to quicken. "I'm so glad you're here," she said, her eyes flickering with something unspoken. I laughed, brushing a hand through my hair as if to shake off the nerves. "Me too. It's been too long." We sank into her couch, the weight of the week slipping away with every sip of wine. The conversation flowed easily, as it always did. Memories of our past adventures, confessions about mundane work frustrations, and the small triumphs that made us feel alive. But in the moments between laughter, when our eyes met and the silence settled, I felt something shift. Her gaze lingered, and I couldn't look away. "Do you ever feel like you're searching for something, even when everything is good?" she asked, her voice quieter now, like the words carried more weight than she intended. My throat tightened. "Yes." Her hand brushed against mine, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through me. In that small, intimate space, surrounded by the soft glow of lamps and the hum of the city outside, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something vast and uncharted. I could hear my husband's steady, familiar voice in my head, telling me I was being silly, that I had everything I ever wanted. But here, in this apartment, under her watchful gaze, I wasn't sure if that was enough anymore, and when her fingers intertwined with mine, I didn't pull away. The warmth of her hand in mine was both thrilling and terrifying. I felt the air shift between us, a subtle, almost imperceptible current that seemed to pull me forward. My mind raced with reasons to move, to laugh it off as a playful gesture. But instead, I sat there, caught between the comfort of her presence and the ache of something new and forbidden. She tilted her head slightly, studying me with those knowing eyes. "You've changed," she said softly. I don't know how to explain it, but you seem different. I swallowed hard. Maybe I am. Her lips curved into a soft smile, though her gaze didn't lose its intensity. I like this version of you. She's freer. I let out a shaky breath and reached for my glass of wine, trying to ground myself. Sometimes I don't even know who I am anymore, I admitted. I go through the motions, work, home, dinner with my husband, and it's fine, but it feels like I'm living someone else's life. She shifted closer, and I felt the faint brush of her knee against mine. You're not alone in that feeling, she whispered. We all crave something real, something raw. My heart pounded in my chest. Her words peeled back a layer I didn't even know I had. I turned to face her fully, our knees touching now, neither of us pulling away. I could feel the weight of unspoken words pressing down between us, thick and undeniable. Her voice broke the silence. Do you ever wonder what it would be like to let yourself feel again? I stared at her, searching for the right thing to say, something logical, something safe. But the truth was clawing its way out of me. All the time. She reached up, brushing a stray lock of hair behind my ear. Her fingers were gentle but deliberate, lingering for a moment longer than they needed to. My breath caught in my throat, and time seemed to slow. I could feel the hum of the city through the windows, but it was distant, like white noise in the background of something far more intimate. Then it happened. Soft, tentative, but electric. Her lips brushed mine, testing the boundaries we both knew we were crossing. It wasn't rushed or frantic. It was slow, deliberate, like she was savoring the moment. My mind screamed at me to stop, to pull away, to remember everything I was risking. But my body didn't listen. Instead, I leaned in, closing the gap between us. The kiss deepened, and for a moment, everything else fell away. The weight of expectations, the fear of consequences, even the image of my husband waiting at home. All that existed was her warmth, her breath, and the way my heart raced against my ribs. When we finally pulled back, the world seemed quieter somehow. Her face was inches from mine, her eyes wide but soft. I've thought about that for so long, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I blinked, trying to process the gravity of what had just happened. Me too, I confessed, surprised by the honesty in my own voice. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It felt like a fragile truce between who we were and who we wanted to be. She reached for my hand again, her thumb tracing small, absent-minded circles against my skin. Stay a little longer, she asked, her tone careful, almost hesitant. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to, but because I knew what staying would mean. The line we had crossed wasn't just some fleeting moment of weakness. It was a point of no return. I don't know if I can, I whispered, though even as I said the words, I felt myself leaning toward her again. She nodded, understanding without judgment. It's okay. Her fingers brushed mine once more before she let go. No pressure. I don't want you to leave feeling like this was a mistake. I met her gaze, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw myself reflected in someone else's eyes, not as a wife or a professional, but as someone deserving of more than the roles she'd been given. A lump formed in my throat as I stood, grabbing my coat with shaky hands. I need some time to think, I said, though I wasn't even sure what I was trying to think through. She walked me to the door, standing close enough that our arms brushed. Take all the time you need, she murmured. I'll be here. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. The cool air outside hit my face as I stepped out, sharp and sobering. But even as I walked away from her apartment, the memory of her touch lingered like an unshakable echo. At home, the house was quiet except for the low hum of the television in the living room. My husband was half asleep on the couch, the soft glow of the screen casting shadows across his face. He stirred when he heard me come in, offering me a sleepy smile. "How was your night?" he asked, his voice thick with drowsiness. "Good," I replied, the lie slipping out too easily. I kissed his forehead, the gesture automatic but hollow. As I stood there, watching him drift back into sleep, I wondered how long I could pretend that everything was the same, because deep down I knew it wasn't. The morning light filtered through the windows, soft and golden, but it did nothing to quiet the storm in my chest. I sat at the kitchen counter, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. The night before played in my mind like a reel I couldn't pause. Her touch, the warmth of her breath, the way I felt like I had come undone and reassembled into someone new. My husband walked in, his hair mussed from sleep, and gave me that easy, familiar smile. "You're up early," he said as he poured himself a cup. "Couldn't sleep," I muttered. He raised an eyebrow, but didn't press. Instead, he leaned down and kissed my cheek, the gesture soft and habitual. I forced a smile in return, though my mind was 1,000 miles away. Later that morning, as I scrolled through emails I had no interest in answering, my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. "Hey, I hope you're okay. I keep thinking about last night." My thumb hovered over the screen as I read and reread her message. The words felt like an echo of my own thoughts, aching, unsure, but so painfully real. I typed out a response, "Me too. I don't know what comes next." Her reply was almost instant. "Come over tonight. Let's talk. No pressure, just us." My breath caught in my throat. It was such a simple invitation, but it felt like the world tilted under my feet. The hours crawled by in excruciating slowness. I tried distracting myself with errands, folding laundry, cooking dinner too early. None of it worked. My nerves frayed with every passing minute. I changed outfits twice, like eventually settling on a soft beige blouse and jeans, something casual but intentional. Underneath, though, I chose lace again, a small rebellion, a reminder of what I was hiding beneath the surface. By the time I was ready to leave, my husband was back home, flipping through TV channels. "Heading out again?" he asked, surprised but not suspicious. "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone light. She wanted some company after the week she's had. Just a quick catch-up. He nodded, already absorbed in whatever show was on. I hesitated at the door, guilt clinging to my skin like a second layer. But the pull toward her was stronger. Her apartment door opened before I even knocked. She must have been waiting on the other side. "Hey," she said softly. She looked different, like she hadn't slept much either. There was something raw in her expression that made my heart tighten. "Hey," I whispered back as I stepped inside. The air between us was heavy but not awkward. She led me to the couch where we had sat the night before, the wine glasses from yesterday still untouched on the table. For a while, we didn't speak. We sat close but not touching, the silence filled with everything we wanted to say but didn't know how. Eventually, she broke it. "I didn't sleep," she admitted, staring down at her hands. "I kept replaying everything in my head.